Disclaimer: the following episode contains spoilers for Sword Art Online and Sword Art Online Abridged. Don't go crying to your mom if we spoil it for you. You've been warned. Welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast for a place to hang your cape. And this week, I'm just gonna throw a big old conversational hand grenade into the subbed v dub debate. We're talking about Sword Art Online Abridged! Cue the music! Hello there, capers, and as I said, welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast for a place to hang your cape. My name's Scott James Merridew, and this is a show where we talk about various geek and nerd-related topics, and are joined each week by a very special different guest. Back as before, he's the Pikachu to my Ash, the whatever the fuck its name was to whatever the fuck the main guy's name was in Digimon, the Jet to my Spike and Cowboy Bebop, I don't know. It's Mark Russell!
So as Pikachu, does that mean I get to electrocute you whenever I want?
Well, Pikachu would never do that. What he would do is look really, really surprised at weird times and then become a meme.
And then become a Gigantamax.
Exactly. Now, as I said, we're talking about SAO, but before we do that, we at Podcapers have got an announcement. It's a place to hang your capes 10-year anniversary, motherfuckers!
Yay!
And to celebrate, A Place to Hang Your Cape has a brand new 10th anniversary logo, which is now available in our merch store. We got a bunch of new stuff in the merch store available on things like phone cases, t-shirts, hoodies, and more. There's a lot of really cool stuff, including the Podcapers logo, both the vanilla design and also various variants we've had over the years, including the Gay Pride one, the Infinity Gauntlet one, as well as the designs and posters for all of our Halloween specials so far, because why shouldn't you enjoy the various misery we go through each and every year? Oh god, it's just around the corner. Oh god, it's just around the corner. Nothing bad will happen. Nothing bad will happen. Anyway, there's a really lot of cool stuff, especially when you consider the fact that there is a sale on. That's right. If you go to aplacetohangyourcape.com/merch and type in Cape 10, all one word, lowercase, that's Cape 10 in the promo code box, you get 10% off from October 31st all through the month of October off of all of our merch. It's a heck of a bargain. So trust me when I say you're going to want to take advantage of this. There's a lot of really cool stuff you can get for a bargain. And considering how most of us aren't going to be able to go out on this Halloween, it might be nice to cheer yourself up by getting something from the store. So go check us out at that link again is aplacetohangyourcape.com, so ap2hyc.com/merch. Code is Cape10 for 10% off. We would really appreciate it, spreading the love. Anyway, that's the announcements, but now we got to talk about SAO. So Mark, would you say you're the connoisseur of anime on A Place to Hang Your Cape?
Yes and no.
I mean, there's other people who...
My shame.
What's that?
I haven't watched every single anime in the world.
Really? Or even the icky gooey ones?
No. I tend to avoid those.
Thank you. God, I don't want to have that discussion. Tentacle
No,
love
you.
is not real love, Mark.
No, definitely not. Ugh.
But I know there's other people on Place to Hang Your Cape who, watch anime, and I myself do watch the occasional anime, but I found myself getting rather picky about them. There's very few anime that I actually enjoy watching long term. There's lots of good anime that I have watched, but I've never been able to stick with them. And we've talked about anime before on the show, most notably when we talked about Naruto, and we talked about Pokemon a couple of times. Sailor Moon.
Which understood.
It's just one of those things that...
Oh, I didn't explain it properly.
It's one of those things that's kind of a bit of a blind spot for me. But I have found, Dickapers, my outlet for the anime genre, the thing that I can firmly enjoy no matter what, well, more or less, and that is abridged anime. Do you watch a lot of abridged anime, Mark?
It's time to duel. Screw the rules, I have money. My voice gives me super strength. How's that for you?
Okay, so that shows you listen to Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, but
And I used to listen to Naruto Abridged before it disappeared.
what, like 10 years ago? That thing's been off.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Okay, so there's that, but I've actually listened to quite a few. There's been obviously Team 4 stuff, done a lot of great ones like Dragon Ball Z Abridged and Hellsing Abridged, both of which I love. Also, there's been a couple based around Attack on Titan, which I really enjoy, considering the fact that Attack on Titan really scares the bejesus out of me.
Well, I don't really like where the manga's gone.
You see, you even read mangas. I don't read the mangas, but the point is, and there's a bunch of other stuff beyond that. The point is, I really do like them because I find they're just a bit more accessible to me. They're kind of, they don't take themselves too seriously. There's a lot of cool humor that I can really get into more than even the best quality dub. And I often find myself liking the characters just a little bit more, but not by much. There are some exceptions to that rule, because I find that a lot of people who start their own abridged animes tend to get a bit lazy. And the reason why they get lazy is because a lot of the time the humor is just completely and utterly crass. And when I say crass, I don't mean crass that it's actually funny. I mean crass that is lacking in all subtlety, nuance, and tongue-in-cheekness, and is just poop. Like, that's the sort of... I'm not exaggerating, that's the kind of level a lot of them aspire to. And also, I don't really like the ones where they clearly couldn't get any female voice actors, so all the female characters are just guys doing horribly annoying, screechy accents. Just like, "Hey guys, my name's Sakura! Kawaii!" Just, no. Just stop that. Just no.
Well,
how dare you?
Well, everyone seemed to take after little Karibo's tail voice.
Well, that's the thing, see, that was just one voice, and that was kind of funny, and it's... I don't know. When he does it, it's okay, because it's limited, but imagine if all the characters sounded like that.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't be very nice.
But on the plus side, it makes the ones that don't do that stand out all the more. And the other exception to the rule is, I said I like the characters a bit more, but not by much. By and large, I like them the same as I do in the original anime. The exception to that is Sword Art Online Abridged. Now, I have watched a few episodes of both Sword Art Online, and I've watched all of Sword Online Abridged. And the characters in Sword Art Online Abridged... Fuck, that's a hard thing to say.
Just say SAO.
SAO Abridged are much better than their original official release counterparts. And here's the thing, I'm not the only person to point that out. People have been saying, actually for quite a few years, that Something Witty Entertainment's Sword Art Online Abridged is actually superior to the original anime. Not people prefer it, like, for example, I've tried getting into Dragon Ball, and I just can't, but I really like Dragon Ball Z, but both are good. No. SAO Abridged is better. Your thoughts on that?
Well, considering I never watched it, I have heard about how superior it is, and I may do some watching once we're done here.
And that's a sad thing to see, because I almost don't want to spoil it for you, but I'm gonna, because you need an education. Because here's the thing, every time we've done this anime thing, it's always been you yammering away at me about all this anime stuff, and I'm just desperately trying to catch up. But now it's my turn, bitch! You're at my house now!
I hope you're not Republican.
No. Okay. Just because I do that stereotypical Southern accent does not mean that I'm Republican. I'm not even American. How would that even work?
Well, truth be told, son, I can do it too, so I guess we're just as weird as each other.
You had to go and make it weird. Anyway, so here's what we're going to do. You're going to try and explain SAO to me, and I'm in turn going to explain Sword Art Online Abridged to you. And here's the thing: I have watched a few episodes of SAO, and then I gave up because it was boring and stupid.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you have this. Do you even like the original anime?
I do, but not as much as I used to.
Is that because it's changed over the various seasons?
Well, I watched it when it first came out in 2012, and then have you heard of a YouTuber called Mother's Basement?
I have indeed.
I watched his videos, and then it kind of like, oh yeah, that's good point. It's like, oh yeah, the characters aren't all that well written and stuff. Then it kind of like it gets worse, and not it's not phenomenally bad. I mean, I've watched bad anime, I've watched garbage anime. Sword Art Online's kind of like now kind of like descended from good to sort of like below average.
It's one of those bads where it's like it's not even. It's so bad, it's good. It's so bad, it's just bad. Like there's no real level of enjoyment you can truly get from it.
I like the animation. I like the music. The fighting's good. It's just that the characters aren't well developed, nor is the world building.
Well, they're not well developed at all. They're not developed. Stuff just kind of happens to them, and they do shit.
Often on how far in the Bridge series, how far does it cover? Does it do all 4 seasons and the movie, or does it just like do like a couple?
Well, here's the thing: the episodes are staggered because obviously they're an independent YouTube company, and they've got to edit it all and voice it all and write it all out. So far, they've done 15 episodes. They've covered the entire Aincrad arc, and now they're like a couple of episodes into the Fairy Dance arc. That's where.
Just skip it. Just jump. Forget that. Just tell them to forget it and jump straight to the next arc. It's you're in for a roller coaster ride.
No, but here's the thing: you're forgetting. I'm watching Sword Art Online Abridged, so
I
we've
know
taken the crap storyline and we've made it better.
Well, if they can find a way to make it better,
they did.
I hope they.
It was actually really easy.
Okay.
Really, I'm not trying to take away the hard work that people behind the scenes at Something Witty Entertainment put into their abridged anime. But it turns out there is actually a very clever, some might even say genius way of giving all of these characters, all of them, even the minor characters, actual, real, genuine, and engaging character development. And you know what that is?
Good writing.
It is good writing, but it's more specific than that. They made all of these characters the biggest, most unrepentant assholes in the world. And then they gave them pathos.
Okay.
I'm not even joking. These are some of the scummiest. Like, I don't really watch it, although I need to get into it. You know, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I've never watched it, but I've heard of it.
Okay, so the whole idea about that show is that the main characters are kind of dicks.
Okay.
At least that's how I understand it. Imagine that, but they're about 10 times more verbose. They are completely aware of how bad they are, but despite how bad they are, they still kind of reluctantly have to do the right thing, and that's where the character growth comes from.
Interesting.
It's really interesting. So let's just go through this, not exactly episode by episode, but we'll get things going on. So just a couple of sentences. Could you please describe for the capers at home what exactly the first bit of Sword Art Online, the initial premise, is all about?
Well, that's easy. 10,000 people get trapped in a virtuality game, and unless they reach the final boss, they will die.
I mean, yeah, that is basically it. I mean, there's a bit more to it than that, but that's the basic plot. And here's the thing. There's a lot of... I can't remember what the official term for it in Japanese called. There's this trope, this sort of subgenre, where the heroes get transported into a fantasy realm from the real world. Things like, Inuyasha and... even Digimon, actually. Can't remember.
Yeah.
Sekai? I don't know.
I can't remember.
There's a lot of stuff like that out there, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a disturbing trend I've seen recently. There's a couple of animes I've tried to get into where they get transported to a fantasy realm, and it is a fantasy realm, but then discover, oh my god, all of our fantastical abilities work just like a multiplayer game. because they've got like menus and stuff that we can touch, and that's how the magic works. And I'm just thinking, my god, that's lazy. That is some lazy ass writing. Thankfully, even Sword Art Online misses that because they are actually in an MMORPG.
Yeah.
So the magic abilities working through the menu system and stuff like that and playing like a video game actually makes sense in this instance.
Yeah, even though it comes off as a very boring game.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, you see. That's the thing. Because in SAO Abridged, the fact that the game is boring and poorly designed and inconsistent and full of glitches and bugs is actually not only a great source of humor, but an integral part of the storyline.
Ooh.
They've taken the worst aspects of the original anime and turned it into an interesting mystery, in fact.
Ooh.
So how do we start the very first episode of Sword Art Online, original?
Well, the entire first episode. Well, we should probably talk about Kirito in a minute, who's the main protagonist.
Yeah.
The first episode is literally just exposition, and then they kind of like throw the initial inciting incident in the last 5 minutes. So just to introduce it, Kirito goes into SAO for the first time. He meets another character called Klein. He shows him how to do the ropes. He says, right, I'm logging back out. Where's the lookout button? It's not there. And then suddenly the game's creator shows and says, ha, I have trapped you all in this game. Why? Not telling you. Bye.
Right, okay, so how long is that episode in the original?
About 24 minutes.
Okay, so everything you just said is in the abridged anime. However, the runtime of that first episode is 8.5 minutes.
Oh, well, there you go then.
And it's still packed with a fair decent amount of the setup, exposition, humor, and the initial beginnings of character development. And we get a real sense of what this anime abridged is going to be. This abridged anime, is going to be like in the very first minute of the very first episode. So it's the far future. There's this new VR game called Sword Art Online, and this character called Kirito puts on his Nerve Gear helmet and logs into the VR world of Sword Art Online.
There you go.
But here's the thing, as soon as he gets in there, he sees that the game world is full of ads.
Okay, that's interesting.
And then he's like, oh, well, fuck this noise, and he tries to install an ad blocker DLC that costs $29.99. He then says, haha, I'm gonna burn this fucker to the ground.
Okay, then.
And then we get the title scene, well, the title credits, which is set to 30 Second to Mars's This Is War.
Oh, okay, I like that song.
Yeah. And then we see him meet the character that you mentioned earlier, called Klein. However, in this version, Klein is sort of testing the game out. He wants to create like a joke character before he sets up his real character later. So he's given his character the name of Balls Deep 69.
Oh, boy.
He is referred to as Balls Deep 69 for the rest of the season.
Oh, dear.
Much to his annoyance.
Well, if he goes making a stupid... Then again, in the anime, he lives alone in an apartment, so when the whole thing goes down, how come he's not dead? Because he locked himself in.
Well, that's the thing. At least it was referenced... I think what happened is they all got, taken up and transported to hospitals.
Yeah, but they do kind of he worries he's like, oh, I live on my own. No one knows where. No one really comes to see me. I live in some shitty apartment in the middle of nowhere. It's like, so not everyone probably got out there in the kickoff.
Well, that's the thing. You see, that's the thing. Actually, I don't know if this happened in the original series. I didn't make it through season 1 or the iCredit arc, whatever. Only 4 episodes. But in the abridged season, they actually explain all that as well.
Okay.
Literally, all the plot inconsistencies you can think of are explained in a humorous and actually making sense way in the abridged version. And, okay, so we meet Klein, we meet Kirito, but we don't really know what the characters are like. Klein appears to be kind of down to earth, even though he's made a Balls Deep 69 character. However, he's not really doing well fighting against this pig enemy, But then Kirito wanders in, throws a rock at it, and easily defeats it. And it's just like, oh, do you know what this is? This is the most powerful weapon in the game! The mithril pebble of pig smiting. What follows is a literally in story, hours-long monologue done by Kirito, entirely sarcastically, to shame Klein for not being able to defeat the weakest enemy in the game.
Doesn't sound too far off from actual Kirito.
Well, here's the thing. In the original, as I understand it, Kirito is a superior, smug, egotistical arsehole who has earned none of that.
But I mean, later on, they give him a bit more. They hit him with trauma. It doesn't really seem to affect him until later on. It's like, come on.
But I mean, actually,
the writer Reki Kawahara did admit that that Kirito is essentially a self-insert.
Yeah. Yeah, but here's the thing. Here, Kirito has an actual personality, that of an unlikable arsehole. They play into it. They understand that he is, in fact, a smug, superior dickwad who uses his superior gaming skills to mock and bully other people, and they lean right into it. He mocks everyone because that's the only way he can really interact with the world. But here's the thing. Later on, as the Abridged season goes on, it becomes clear that this is, in fact, not something that you were meant to admire Kirito for, but a deep, intrinsic, and tragic character flaw that he has to work to overcome. And indeed, he kind of does. It's character development, people.
Which is sorely missing in SAO.
But then they're like, okay, you know what? I've had fun listening to you whine on and on about the mithril pebble that defeated the ancient beast, but I've got to go home now, so I'm just going to log out. I can't log out. Oh, you idiot. You just have to log out like, I can't log out either. Then they all get transported into this big arena-type place where the sky goes red, is bleeding, and then the big hooded figure of Kayaba Akihito appears before them. What does he say in the original?
Exposits why he has done this. Everyone is trapped in the game. They can get out as to the 100th level. If you die in game, then you die in the real world because the nerve gear fries your brains, which for some reason they managed to get past the examination of the product. And then he disappears.
Right. He says the exact same thing in the abridged version. However, this is going to be a running theme. He says the same thing, but better. In this version, he acts like a game show host, just like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sword Art Online. By the way, you can't log out. I've trapped you all here, and also I'm going to reveal what you really look like. A bunch of fairly attractive 20-somethings. Good for you. Way to buck the stereotype. And then he's just like, oh, by the way, if you die in real life. And they're like, what? If you die in the game, you die in real life. What? Okay, sometimes people live. Then they don't. What? And then he shows them a clip from Scanners, and that makes them understand.
Very good.
And... Oh, God, it's... and then it's revealed that this one girl is actually a guy, and this one guy is actually another guy, and they're just like, wait a minute, you're not a guy? Wait a minute, you're a... No, what was it?
Joke.
No, wait a minute, you're not a girl? I'm actually okay with that. Me too. And then some guy from off screen shouts, love knows no gender! And there's lots of little jokes like that from just side characters you never see all the time. It's actually really witty writing.
Very good.
And so then Kayaba mysteriously disappears. But he basically... the best joke is that, okay, if you want to leave the game, you've got to beat all 100 floors and escape the game. Wait, so you're asking us to beat an MMO? Essentially, yes. Fuck you! And so, after that all reveal, when Kaiba leaves by saying that he's disabled the profanity filter, have fun with that. Kind of just like, okay, Kirito, you're clearly an unrepentant arsehole, but I think we better stand a better chance of surviving this. We team up together. But then he looks up and Kirito's run away and he's crying because he called him an arsehole.
Oh, very good, very good.
And all of this is interspersed with a couple of clips of beta testers from the original game, which is filmed like IRL in real life, not animated, of being able to move around with the nerve gear, as opposed to the latest nerve gear, which stops you from moving by inhibiting your motor functions. And the beta tester's roommate walks up behind him, and he's immediately beaten to death by said beta tester.
Oh dear.
That's the kind of humor we're going for. Then we go straight into episode 2.
Oh dear.
Right, so Kirito has just rejected being in a guild with Klein. I'm guessing he said the same thing essentially in the original.
No, actually. Klein said, sorry, Kirito, I'm off to join my own guild. Go away.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, because it's like, actually, Kirito actually asks Klein to come with him, and Klein's like, sorry, man, I got my own guild. Too bad.
Wow, that's
like,
You couldn't kill a boar, Klein.
Yeah, no. Actually, he does become one of the best players, so to speak, in the game, apparently.
Yeah, same in the abridged version.
Yeah.
But we then cut to episode 2, and in episode 2 of the original anime, is it a month later and it's revealed that 2,000 players have died and they haven't even cleared the first level?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. In the abridged anime, as I understand it, unlike the original, everyone is really, really fucking shocked at this.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I mean, this one guy, Diabel, blue-haired guy, is explaining to a bunch of players that, okay, so I know like 2,000 of us have died. What? 2,000? And it's only been a month? It's been a month? And we haven't cleared the first floor yet? What? I thought we were nearly done! No. And what's interesting about this is that there are a few characters that are in this anime that are sane, level-headed, and desperate to try and coordinate everyone to helping them escape. And everyone else is acting like an actual video game player.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it's hilarious, just these desperate people. Please have a sense of survival instinct, guys, because otherwise none of us are going to win. And some of them are just kind of griefers, like this one guy, Kiabao, and he's just like, hey, this is all the fault of the beta testers for not warning us. And Diabala's just like, they did warn us. And then this other guy comes out, and he's big, he's tall, he's bald, he's got a cool goatee, and he's a black man, and his name is Tiffany. What's he called in the original?
His name is Agil in the anime.
Right. In the abridged anime, his name is Tiffany, often abbreviated to Tiff.
Why is it called Tiffany?
Well, here's the thing. Kiabao, whatever the fuck his name is just like, oh, Tiffany, that's a weird name for a guy. And Tiffany says, it should be. It's a girl's name. Are you a girl? No. And it's just that kind of humor. But he's just like, okay, look, the beta testers aren't to blame here because, they gave us the tutorial book.
Yeah, that happens in the anime.
The tutorial book. What? The 80-page book on how to play the game. I skimmed that book. You didn't read it. It's literally a matter of life and death. I'm trying desperately not to quote this show too much, but there's so many things in it that are so quotable.
Oh, they do that in the anime as well. It's like, by the way, did you read the notebook? And he's got the book in his hands, like, and the idiot's like, what's that? It's like, this is the notebook that the beta testers gave out everybody. You can get them like at every shop in the damn game. It's hilarious. Here's
the thing, though. Here's the thing. The original show is not a comedy. There may be comedic moments, but it's not a comedy. It's trying to do something kind of naturalistically, as much as you can when people are trapped inside a, video game. And it takes itself a bit seriously. But in a serious situation, if you were trapped inside a video game, and if you died in the game, you died in real life, wouldn't you not take a couple of minutes to peruse the tutorial?
Yeah, I mean, there is I do like one. There's a couple of things I do like about this arc is that they kind of address what happens to the players who aren't hardcore gamers, who are just kind of like, because they reveal it's like there's children in the game, there's a couple of normal players, there's a couple of old men there, and they all kind of like, we find out they kind of like form their own community in the lower levels. So at least they address that in a good way. But it's like you've got these grumpy idiots who are like, so we gotta get, it's all your fault, bitches. But there's source material available to you in a situation where you've got to fight or die, and you didn't think about reading it.
It speaks to a lack of awareness, whereas the abridged anime plays that up for laughs.
Yeah.
So it works. It's amazing just how a small shift in tone and in, the kind of style can make the same idea work much better. Actually, it's not that impressive. That's actually pretty fucking obvious now that I say it. And so while Diabell is desperately trying to come up with strategies for the rest of the characters, Kirito sidles up to this other character, Asuna, and it's like, hey, so why haven't you joined up with a party with anyone else? And Asa says she doesn't know how because she hasn't figured out how to use the game's menu. And we then cut to an image of Asuna staring at like a sandwich or something, and just like, how do I eat you?
That is a good point, because Asuna is a newbie player in the anime, so she's kind of like, what am I doing here? Because she only bought it on a whim to spite her mother, who's one of those snobbish, this is what you're going to do in your life type of things.
Yeah, that gets explored later on in the abridged anime as well.
Okay.
So all of them go towards a dungeon to the boss room to defeat Ilfang, the Kobold Lord, who's the biggest fucking kobold I've ever seen.
It's the pig guy from the Hellboy reboot.
Sure. You act like I bothered to inscribe that god-awful film into my memory bank.
Fine, it's Ganondorf.
Whatever. And they try and defeat it, but obviously the players in the abridged anime are just completely utter crap and don't listen to directions, so Diabell is just like, fuck you, I'm gonna try and do it myself. But ends up dying because it turns out that the Talwal that he has is not actually in fact a Talwal, it's a different kind of weapon.
Okay.
Nodachi, and Kirito's like, no, look out, it's a Nodachi. What does that mean? Well, you see, the Talwal originates from this place, the Nodachi originates from this other place, and he's already dead. It's just like, I was trying to tell you that it has bigger reach and more damage. Why didn't you just say that? And Diabell dies. And oh god, so then Kirito and Asuna take on the kobold and win. And it's a big deal, and everyone's like, yay, we won. Well, you two won, but we won. And Asuna is just like, yay, me. And Tiffany is just like, yeah, you guys. I'm just like, Kirito, do you want to say anything to your loyal troops? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the actual quote this time because I don't want to get it wrong.
Okay.
And I want to show, because this is, you might think that, he's, Kirito has joined a group. He's learned to be part of a team, and he's starting to, develop in terms of, learning to be around other people. You would, however, think wrong, because here's what happened. Tiffany says, you've led us to victory, Kirito. These men and I will follow you to hell itself. Now, address your people. And Kirito's like, I always knew this day would come. Fellow gamers, we have traveled far and up many stairs to get to this point. Fighting side by side, noobs and elites alike. I'd like to take a moment to say that I couldn't have done it without the help of each and every one of you. And Tiffany's like, oh, that's a nice thing to say. Of course, I'm not a liar, so I'm not going to say any of that. Oh, shit. I mean, really, I could have done this whole boss fight myself, but to be fair, I guess you did absorb a bit of damage for me, which was nice. You were an adequate meat shield, and no one can ever take that away from you. Fuck, shut up. So for those of you who came in late, and that one guy playing Bejeweled back there, shoot for the stars. Make it more fun when I kick you back into the dirt. And Kiyaba was just like, "You're not better than us." And then Kirito equips his coat of midnight,
Oh yeah.
and it says, "My sweet ass coat begs to differ."
Very good.
And Asuna then runs up and says, "Hey, okay, you know what? I helped you defeat the kobold. I did half the work. I want half the loot. Give me half the coat." I can't give you half the coat. It's, a bunch of ones and zeros. Fine, they give me the ones. Fuck you, I want the ones. But you know what? If you really want the coat that much, I'll give you it. Just send me a trade request. Huh? Open your menu. And then he walks out laughing.
Very good. Very good.
I swear I'm not going to just quote this show, but here's the thing. Kirito is an egregious bastard. So what do we need to do? We need to knock him down a peg.
Let's
next
punish
episode.
him.
What's that?
Let's punish him.
Let's punish him. So this next episode is actually a Christmas special, and it's narrated by a live-action guy who is called Sir Jack Dapper.
Okay.
Who is played by... Who's he played by? So I'm just looking at right now. He's sort of like the mascot of Something Witty Entertainment. And he is... Who's he played by? Damn. Oh, yeah. This guy called Cheeseman Joe, who also just, works on the season. And he's like a typical upper crust aristocrat, like, "Hello, I'm Jack Dapper." Is that sort of thing.
Okay.
And he is the narrator for the Christmas special, and some of his lines are the best. We'll go into it. But the episode starts with Kirito meeting up with this gang called the Moonlit Black Cats, which consists of the leader, Keita, a girl named Sachi with severe lag, and seriously, "Hello, my name's Sachi."
Oh, that's very good.
And also 3 NPCs. Because it turns out, if you start their quests and don't ever finish them, they just follow you around and act as companions.
Oh, God.
And one of them is the tutorial NPC. But because they're NPCs, they just spurt out lines like, "We must save my family!" Constantly. It's really funny. But Kirito's like, "No, I don't want to be part of your guild, man. Fuck you." But then Keita equips this hat, which gives him +5 charisma, which makes Kirito instantly sign up.
What's the hat?
Just because of the hat, exactly.
Give me the hat.
And so he doesn't really want to be with them, but he grows to tolerate them and even care about them. And then he discovers that Sachi has run off. And so he goes to try and find Sachi, and then discovers that she's really sad because she's worried that her lag is going to get people killed. And Kirito's like, I don't know how to mock that. And Sachi's like, "Well, why would you want to mock that?" He's like, "But what's the point of people if you can't mock them?" He's that kind of us. We all knew people, or we know people who are just view people as an excuse to flaunt their supposed intelligence. The kind of insufferable douchebag that just goes on and on and on about their opinions and their views and how much smarter they are than anyone, and thinks that that's really, really funny. And they just completely overtake and hijack any and all conversation about something, but by spreading the things that they hate, and they belittle the things that their friends like, and they say, "Oh, that's stupid, you shouldn't like that, why do you like that thing?" That kind of insufferable smug arsehole that no one could ever possibly like. For some reason I relate to him, I don't know why.
Yeah, it's a mystery, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, and so they have a little bit of talk, they learn anything about each other, and Kirito says, "Okay, you know what? To hell with it. I promise I'm going to be nicer to people." And he actually is a nicer. It's a struggle, but, he tries. And then it turns out that Keita has gotten the group in debt to the mafia.
Okay.
The Mafia is in this game. I guess mobsters like to play games too. And so they say, okay, look, we'll get them off our back if we give them back an item which only spawns on the 27th floor, which is one of the hardest floors so far. And it's like, okay, we're not going to do that. He uses the charisma hat on them, and they have to go to get it. And so they come for the dungeon. It's just an empty room with one single chest in the middle of it. Remember that scene?
Yep. I always remember that scene.
And you might think, well, that's obviously a trap. Kirito points out that that's obviously a trap. But then one of the tutorial NPCs goes over to it because they've been equipped to auto-loot.
Oh dear.
And they immediately spawn a bunch of bad guys. They start killing off 2 of the NPCs, except for one of them, which they've nicknamed Gary, and constantly says, we must save our family, uses a teleport crystal to get out of there.
Okay.
Leaving Kirito and Sachi there alone, and it looks like they might just win, but then Sachi's lag causes her to glitch a little bit, and she gets killed.
Oh god.
Kirito is sort of traumatized by this, mainly due to the fact that his only real friend that he's probably made in years has died in front of his eyes, but also the fact that her last words were, Kirito, this isn't your fault. But the lag makes her repeat herself, so she just keeps on repeating, this isn't your fault, your fault, your fault, your fault, your fault,
God.
your fault. And then she explodes to nothingness.
Oh god, they made it even worse.
And he's just like, oh god, well at least I still have Keita to share my grief with. We immediately transition to Keita committing suicide.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god.
And then Jack Dapper's just like, oh shit, fast forwarding to Christmas time. Kirito receives a story about how there's an item that can resurrect player characters. So he goes to a certain fir tree, hoping to find the item that will give everyone a Merry Christmas. And he's suddenly confronted by Klein, who fends off the Mafia for him, while Kirito runs ahead to the sacred fir tree, where he encounters the patron saint of prostitutes. Look it up.
Okay.
That's actually an actual quote. I've got to stop doing that, but it's so funny. I looked it up. Saint Nicholas is actually the patron saint of prostitutes.
Oh, bloody hell.
Guaranteed to give everyone a Merry Christmas. But anyway.
Santa baby.
Oh, God. And then he fights the Santa Claus and then discovers that the item is, in fact, the charisma hat. And he goes up to Klein and it's just like, hey, Klein, so I remember our talks we had about how I need to open myself up to people. And you're right. Thank you for showing me there was part of me that could care for people. Because it enabled me to find that part of me and destroy it. So now I never have to love anyone again. And he walks away.
Ooh.
And because here's the thing. This is why Sword Art Online is so great.
Abridged.
Because it shows the age-old story that being an arsehole is easier than caring about people. Kirito was an arsehole, opening himself up to the possibility of actually giving a damn, and was immediately punished for it. And it shows how he's had a real possibility for growth, but it was completely ruined by severe trauma.
Mm.
It's actually really clever writing, and it's done with a runtime of 30 minutes and 45 seconds.
Not bad. It's only half the episode.
And Jack Dapper immediately commentates on it by saying, and so Kirito's heart grew 3 sizes that day. Then immediately shrank 6 and turned into a black hole of nothingness from which no love could escape.
Oh dear.
And,
Well,
oh god, I haven't even mentioned the best part. So, in the previous episode, we're introduced this character, Fluffles, who is a cat that for some reason is playing the game.
okay.
and it's literally just like a head of a cat they've animated onto the head of another player. And in this episode, it's revealed that the mob got their orders from a Don who it turns out to be Fluffles.
Those cats.
No, seriously, a cat is now Don Fluffles, the head of the mafia in this game, and he's a recurring character.
Sadly, not in the anime.
No, but it's so interesting. Oh god, it's just it's so great. It's so great. There's tons of really funny side characters like that. And
before we jump on, can I just jump back to Sachi's death?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what you've just described is actually sounds worse than what happens in the anime, and that's hard enough to get through. So
what happened in the anime?
But in the anime, it plays out like you said. Kirito goes to fight the crazy Santa Claus to get an item that will resurrect an avatar. Turns out this is only limited to 30 seconds after the avatar has died.
Oh.
And then Kirito gets a posthumous email from Sachi who tells him not to be sad about her death because she knew she's probably going to kick the bucket eventually. And she sings to him Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and Kirito's just sitting there on the bed, bawling his eyes out.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's sad, but here's the thing. In the next episode, is that referenced at all?
No, it's referenced
that you can remember.
It's referenced later on, but not in the next episode.
In the next episode, Kirito is still clearly and visibly traumatized.
Okay.
Because he meets this little girl who's trying to save her, dragon pet thing. It gets killed and she starts crying, and he's just like, ugh, little girl crying in the woods. I don't care about this. And she's like, you're not gonna ask how I feel? And then he gets a flashback of Sachi, and then his mind sort of immediately shatters, like they could do a visual representation of that.
Yeah.
It's like, what's wrong, little girl? And that sort of trauma persists over the season until he actually sort of grows and moves on from it. But in a, they didn't forget about it. They just showed that he found a healthy way of coping.
Yeah.
And so, he gets goaded later by this character, Rosalie, whatever her fucking name is, to playing into his trauma to help little girl get a item that's going to help resurrect her dragon friend. And then they're confronted on a bridge after getting the item by Rosalie and her gang of bandits who want them to hand over the item. Now, what happens in this scene in the original?
Well, Rosalie is a dick, and she wanted the little girl to join her team, but she didn't want to because Silica's like, just because I'm cute and have a dragon doesn't mean I'm gonna be your mascot. And then they kind of like threaten her and stuff, and they all go attack Kirito, and apparently you can't cut Kirito for some stupid reason, and he one-shots them all in one go.
Right. Okay. So in this version, the abridged version, Rosalie wanted Silica's pet dragon purely so that she could skin it to make some nice leather pants.
Oh, god damn it.
She doesn't succeed in doing that, but anyway. Then she confronts him on the bridge, is a similar dick, but uses like psychological tactics to supposedly make him lose focus. Instead, what it does is make him go psychotic.
Oh, okay.
And here's the thing. This is the episode that made me stop watching, because it's episode 4 and he's already super OP and he's not sticking with any of these characters, just sort of moving from place to place, but he's not an interesting character at all.
Yeah.
And now he's like, oh, now he's super mega OP. But here's the thing. In the original, I'm guessing they did that to make him seem intimidating and badass.
Pretty much.
In the abridged version, that's not what makes him badass. He's still OP, but here's the thing. He's intimidating because of his presence, not because of his high level. And he starts saying like, hey, Rosalie, I'm gonna kill you and all your friends, so why don't you come at me? And she's like, ha ha ha, you couldn't possibly defeat us. And then the minions are like, boss, he came here with just a little girl as backup. Maybe he knows something we don't. And it's just like, hey, that'll be a pretty neat trick if you manage to kill me. Why don't you come at me? Boss, I think he's serious. Just shut up and attack him. Yeah, slash, 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 slash. And it's like, haha, you can't do it, can you? Because you see, my numbers are higher than yours. My wounds heal faster than you can make them. Getting progressively more psychotic and psychotic. His eyes start like narrowing and stuff.
Yikes.
He's like, but it's okay. Because there's no need to wonder where your god is. Because he's right here.
Oh my.
And he's fresh out of mercy.
Oh, shit.
And then one of the minions starts to cry.
Oh dear.
And then Rosalie threatens him a bit more, and he immediately swoops up to her, cuts into her neck, and kills her. Though she does get the last laugh by saying, face it, this is the deepest you'll ever be in a woman. And he's like,
yeah, that's what you think, lady.
well, that's the thing, see. He says, yeah, well, you're dead, so damn it! And here's the thing. What's interesting about this is that this show, the Abridged show, actually goes into the ramifications of real death. In the show, they're sort of treated as sort of disposable people, but they actually go into, oh shit, people are really actually dying in this. That's an important thing I think they need to point out. But this all culminates in Silica, that was her name, right?
Yes.
And Kirito going to their inn room, getting ready to resurrect Pina the little dragon.
Aww.
How does that go in the original?
Pretty much the same way, but with forced fan service.
Yeah, there's no fan service like that in the.
Go for that.
Well, there is a little bit, but they sort of play it for laughs. But anyway,
Did they cut out the molesting plants?
No, they do not.
Ugh.
Well, I mean, I think some of them they might have done cut some of them out because some of it happens off screen.
Okay.
But anyway, and so they go to the tavern and they're about to resurrect Pina in the abridged version. Then it turns out that the item has expired and Pina does not get resurrected, and Silica flies into a complete psychotic rage, carving a huge swath of destruction in her wake.
She cries in the new version, and Kirito whips a thing out thin and saying, by the way, I have this item which you can use to bring back your dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, no. In the abridged anime, she dies.
Who, Silica dies?
No, Pina.
Oh, okay.
The dragon
Okay,
thing.
because they just bring the dragon back. Say, okay, great. The dragon's back.
Nope.
Nope. There you go then.
No. Here's the thing. This show is mean-spirited as fuck.
But it's realistic by the sounds of it.
I don't like using the word realistic
Well,
when it
you
comes to
know,
fiction.
you know, a bit-
Naturalistic, sure. I wouldn't even say naturalistic. It's just mean-spirited. It's not afraid to put its characters through the ringer and radically depart from the original. And so then the next episode is Asuna's guild
Oh boy.
talking about the raid of the next boss, which is Sheeptar, the Sheep King.
Okay.
And Kirito is supposedly supposed to be part of the raid, but he decides to skip it and get high in a field.
That's a bit different. Goes a bit differently in the anime.
Yeah, I'm sure whatever it is, they just cut out. Asuna is really, really not happy about that and keeps berating him. But here's the interesting thing. What's Asuna's character in the original?
Oh, I had to describe her before. Well, she's probably the best written. That's not saying much though, because she's got personal conflicts with her family. She kind of wants to follow her own path. She's very dependent, that sort of thing.
Okay, so it's not too bad. Here in the abridged version, she is equally as flawed a character as Kirito.
Hooray!
She is mean-spirited, mocking, superior, angry, violent, and even just a little bit fucked up.
Okay.
And not great at talking with people at all. The only difference is she actually tries to engage with others. Or as she puts it, at least I pretend to be nice to people.
Ouch.
She's a fascinating character. They're both fascinating characters, and their dynamic that they have between the two. These two incredibly unhealthy people, so that sort of feed off each other's unhealthiness, is actually really, really fascinating. And so they go to a restaurant to get something to eat. Kirito brings up a frequent meme / running joke in the season, the Kirito is always right foundation.
Oh god.
But then they discover, oh no, there's a man hanging outside in the town square with a sword embedded in him. He's about to die. But wait, Kirito says, this is a town. It's a safe zone. There's no danger of him actually dying. Then he dies. And then there's... I won't go into all the details because, frankly, it's just...
I have watched this, at least the original version.
Yeah, we won't need to go into the details. There's a big whole murder mystery thing going on with lots of different characters. It's all centered around this character that was Griselda, that was killed by this guy called Grimlock.
Grimlock?
Was it Grimlock?
Yeah, it's Grimlock. It's like, when I first... Because Grimlock's a character in Transformers, it's like, what?
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. Two of the party members that were involved with Griselda and Grimlock think this other guy, Schmidt, did it, and this whole murder thing was actually them faking their deaths to try and get him to confess to the murder. But he didn't do it. And it turned out it was Grimlock who actually murdered his wife, because they were married in real life. So what was his reasoning for doing so in the original?
Well, she was submissive to him in real life, but when they got into the game, she started becoming independent, and he didn't like that because he's a douchebag, so he decided to murder her.
Now, see, it's funny you say that, because that's the exact same reason in the abridged version.
Okay, so there we go.
It's played a bit more for laughs, and Kirito and everyone else rightly, gives him shit for it. But I think the only difference is, in the original, he lives, doesn't he?
Well, they kind of... Well, we don't actually see what happens to him. The other three members kind of pick him up and carry him off, so we don't know if they executed him or anything off screen.
Yeah, in the abridged anime, they definitely execute him off screen. You can hear his screams carrying over Kirito and Asuna's conversation.
Okay. Oh, by the way, do they introduce the Laughing Coffin Guild in the Bridge series?
They do!
Okay.
And in this version, one of them, their main leader, quotes Bible verses, which other people find very creepy and off-putting. And so Kirito's just like, hey man, what you need to do is do like a PR blast, get your faces out there, rebrand. And they're like, hey, that's not a bad idea. We should go and do that. And so they go off and do that. Kirito and Asa have a nice frank conversation, and then they see Griselda's ghost. And then they immediately freak the fuck out and throw a sword at it and run away.
They didn't do that in the anime. It's like, oh look, there's a ghost, how lovely.
Yeah. And the only other thing you really know about these two episodes, because it's a two-parter, at least in the Abridged series, is that Asuna meets Tiffany, except it turns out that they've already met before. Tiffany and Kirito actually have a pretty good friendship going. They're kind of buddies. And it turns out Asuna is actually kind of racist.
Oh, okay, right, okay.
But not like she hates black people, it's just that she doesn't know how to act around them at all. So she just walks in like, hey, T-Fizzle, what's the happy haps?
Oh dear.
And Tiffany is not a fan of it. It's actually hilarious. There's no malice behind it. She's just completely and utterly socially awkward. It's what makes her so fascinating as a character.
Oh dear.
So that's episode 5 and 6. And so episode 7, he meets the blacksmith Lizbeth.
Yay, I like Lizbeth.
Who is equally traumatized by the death of her own guild.
Oh, okay then, that's not in the anime.
Yeah, because it turns out she used to leave the blacksmithing shops that she owns and goes out with her guild, but unfortunately she ran ahead one time to get some loot, and this caused the enemies to go all aggro, and she was the only one to survive. And she tells this to Kirito, who's just like, no, 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 and it's... And because of that, she has now sequestered herself inside a blacksmith shop, refusing to ever leave. That is until Kirito comes in saying, "Hey, I want a good sword." She's like, "Here's a great sword." And Kirito breaks and just like, "It wasn't a good sword."
The anime's like, that was my best sword!
Yeah, she says the same thing here. But it's just like, okay, you know what? Fine. I'll take you to a place where we can get the best material to get, a new sword. And it turns out that material is dragon shit.
Yeah, that's in the anime.
Yeah. And so she makes the sword once they get back. And it's portrayed as a rhythm game.
Oh, very good.
With also like scenes from like a traditional 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up game, and a bunch of other stuff. It's actually a pretty awesome scene. It's scored to some really epic metal music.
Okay.
And so she makes him a new green sword, and they start to get quite close. And then Asuna, who already knows Lisbeth, runs in, and oh god, I'm constantly breaking my own rules here. I said I wouldn't, keep quoting, but I'm gonna quote because I just have to. I just have to because
give us the line.
I'm just waiting to get it up here. Okay. Sorry, it's taking a while. Hang on. My computer's frozen. Okay, so she basically says... Oh no, so she runs in and says, "Oh my god, Liz, I was so worried!" And then she hugs her really close and starts whispering in her ear, "What the hell do you think you were doing back there?"
Oh god.
No, shh. No talking. Just listening. Because you're my friend, I'm giving you one warning. Kirito is off limits. If I see you try something like that again, I will come for you. And you of all people know how sharp my blade is. Are we clear? Yeah, I said no talking. That's a good girl. Now play along in 3, 2, 1. Oh my god, I'm so glad you're okay. When I couldn't find you on the map, I got so worried.
Not sure I like that.
But it's instantly because Asuna is clearly so much of a psycho.
Okay.
And oh god. And meanwhile, Kirito is still an arsehole. Don't think he's developed that much so far. And so after Lisbeth runs off, he, shows her the finished sword to her, just like, okay, so you know what? I decided to name it something. What did he name it in the original?
I don't recall.
Well, here he says, I've decided to name it Sunlight Heart.
I wait for the gag.
You're absolutely right to wait for the gag, because then he said he thought that was lame, and he changed it to the piece of shit. Dragon shit, that is. Lol, trademark Lisbeth, followed by all of Lisbeth's contact info.
Oh dear.
Oh god, dear. And it's a very funny, somewhat touching moment that is punctuated by the end credits thing where we see that Asuna has burned Lisbeth's shop to the ground, writing the message in blood, "You were warned," on the side.
Oh, god damn it. Oh boy. Oh well, Lisbeth joins Silica and the growing harem.
Well, that's the thing, you see. I thought, is this where it's going? It's a harem sort of thing. And when we do see her later on, they don't really... This is the problem with the show. It doesn't really stick with any one storyline. Stuff just happens. Mm-hmm. And it takes place over the course of 2 years.
Yeah, that's what annoys me about the first arc. It's like you got a brilliant premise. Like, okay, so it's going to take them a very long time and get a few seasons out of it. They're done in 14 episodes. And we skip so much of stuff that could have been important. But nope, skip. Got to get them out to the incest arc.
Oh, yes. Right, so, so... And there's only 11 episodes in the abridged anime of that arc. Okay. And so it's interesting to see because now, before it sort of showed the character sort of bouncing from place to place, but now it actually sort of focuses on the deepening relationship between Kirito and Asuna.
Yeah.
And so it turns out Asuna is now being followed around by her bodyguard, who's a bit of a creep called Kuradil.
Oh yeah, the guy who looks like Worm Tongue.
Oh, I would have said Snake.
Oh, okay, I thought you were. It doesn't matter, does it?
But it turns out what's Kirito been doing this whole time? He found an S-class level food ingredient, Ragu Rabbit.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
But here's the thing. It's weird, but they turn it into an interesting plot point. How the fuck do you do that, you might say?
I don't know. How do they do it?
Well, it turns out that Asuna has maxed out her cooking skill for some reason.
Oh yes, that's in the anime.
So she offers to cook the Ragu rabbit for Kirito, and they go and they have a nice dinner together, except when she opens the lid off the pot, it shines out with this heavenly glow, and Kirito's like, oh my god, it's beautiful! And then it just immediately cuts to them being satisfied, having the best meal they've ever had. Here's the thing, though. I think later on in the episode, or a couple of episodes later, Asuna makes Kirito a sandwich, like a lunch, and so they sit down to eat it, and Kirito's like, Asuna, what did you do to this sandwich? What do you mean? It tastes awful. What? I mean, I've maxed out my cooking skills. I could make the most awful meal in the world, and you'd still think it was the best meal you'd ever had. Oh my god. The Ragu Rabbit. It's literally the tastiest thing you could ever eat in real life or imaginary. Which means everything that we eat after that can't possibly compare, and it's going to taste awful.
Okay, that's interesting.
And Kirito says, you mean, and it's the best fucking line in the entire show, you mean to say we flowers for Algernon our taste buds? And that carries on in every single episode past then. Every time they have a meal, they comment on the fact that was awful.
Okay, that's interesting. I like that.
They've cursed their taste buds. Imagine that. Imagine eating something so brilliant that everything else tasted like shit forever.
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of trying to figure out how does the whole eat food thing in virtual reality work, but I do quite like the spin on it.
I mean, they don't need to eat because
I know, but yeah,
it's virtual food. But I think they just like the taste.
Yeah, I know. I do find these kind of things interesting.
Yeah, but now that they've tasted it, nothing could even compare. Even in the real world, nothing compares.
Okay, that's interesting. I thought it would just be limited to SAO, but it's in the actual real world too. I like that.
No. But then the next day, Asuna teleports to Kirito, and it's like, oh, Kirito, save me! Clearly putting it on a bit. And because I'm guessing, even though she's an expert fighter in the anime, she meant that sincerely.
Yes.
Because then it turns out she's been followed by her bodyguard, Kuradil, who, it turns out, broke into her house and was watching her sleep.
Oh, no wonder it turns out he's a bad guy.
And it turns out he was actually following and spying on them when they had their dinner.
Ew.
And so Kirito was just like, okay, man, you and me, we're gonna have a duel. And he's like, okay. And you can guess what happens.
Kirito hopefully wins.
Kirito slices his sword in two and completely kicks his ass. Asuna then shows up, and after Kuradil tries to stab him, flings his dagger up in the air, and then he's in the middle of a dramatic evil speech, and the dagger flies down and hits him at the very top of his head. And you see the tip of the dagger in the roof of his mouth when he speaks.
Oh, that doesn't happen in the anime. He dies later.
They add a bunch of new animations to the show, which really adds to the funny scenes. They can tell what's from the original and what's not, but it's still very good. And so what happens next? So they go through this dungeon, like I mentioned earlier.
Big goat guy?
Oh, the big goat guy. And then because there's a bunch of soldiers in there that are in danger, and Kirito's just like, oh god, I don't want to care, but I do. And then he goes into this big monologue about how much he hates people, like really hates people. And it's so interesting because he is such an unrepentant arsehole, but he can't help but feel empathy for other people. He doesn't want to, he doesn't like the fact that he does, but he can't help it. It's such a fascinating source of internal conflict.
I like that.
And this is also where he reveals that he is in fact a dual wielder. Even though earlier in the season there was a guy with 2 axes fighting Kirito with like Silica and Rosalie.
Like anyone actually notices that.
The makers of this series actually noticed that and even referenced it.
There you go then. Pay attention. See, when an audience pays more attention to the writers of a show.
Yeah. It's just little moments like that, and also it ends on a rather sweet note as Kirito and Asuna share a very nice moment. Aww. However, it turns out that moment was live streamed to the entire SAO servers, meaning that everyone now knows that Kirito can dual wield.
Oh, that's stupid. Oh, well, there you go. He keeps it a secret in the anime.
Yeah, and because of that, the leader of the Knights of the Blood Oath, Asuna's guild, Heathcliff, that's the word, asks Kirito to join the guild. And Kirito's like, I'm a lone wolf, I'm not going to do that. Oh, surely there must be something we can give you. Money, a house, better equipment, Asuna. What? It's a compliment. Oh, guys, it's very tongue-in-cheek, it's very funny. But then Kirito says, you know what I want to do? I want to duel you. Okay, fine. And then Kirito, in the duel arena, the crowds everywhere, it's just like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to max up the perfect strategy in my head. And he goes into this long litany list of everything that he's going to do to this guy. And then he sort of realizes, wait a minute, why am I on the floor? And it turns out that whilst he was thinking all of that, Heathcliff just knocked on the floor and immediately won the duel.
With his big shield.
With his big shield, and just because everyone turned up for a big fight that lasted only 3 seconds, everyone riots.
Very good.
So because of that, this is when the episodes started getting a bit longer, so there's actually a lot more plot in this. Yeah. And so Kirito is now forcibly into the Knights of the Blood Oath, where he meets another player, Godfrey, who is a role player.
Okay.
Which means he acts like and talks like he's straight out of Shakespeare. Actually, no, it's straight out of how an American thinks Shakespearean characters talk. And he's also teamed up with Kuradil, and is just like, what, this guy? And Kuradil's like, look, I'm really sorry. I was just trying to be a good bodyguard. I overstepped my boundaries. I'm really sorry. I'm here to work through my issues. Kirito's just like, okay, fine. Then they go into a canyon where both him and Godfrey get paralyzed and poisoned by Kuradil, who now wants to kill both of them. Kirito because he embarrassed him, and Godfrey because he kept on talking as a role player. Managed to kill Godfrey. Asuna shows up, big old fight, basically tortures him with her expert sword fighting skills. And they're just like, you know what? I'm going to let the commander decide what to do with you. And he's like, really? No. And then stabs him.
Oh, okay. I like that how they did that.
And then she goes to, console Kirito and is just like, oh, and then she starts to cry. Because it turns out she's developed a real emotional connection to him. And it's just like, I really don't like the fact that you were in harm's way. And I don't like the fact that I'm crying over you. And it's all so complicated. Wah. And they kiss, and it's actually rather sweet. And then later on in Asuna's apartment, they're all like, yeah, they're just
skip.
No, we're not going to skip. Kirito's just like, okay, so what's going on? What's happening here? And then he looks over and sees Asuna started to take off her clothes, and she's like, okay, are we doing this or what? And Kirito just gives a low scream because he doesn't know how to handle these things because he's the most socially inept person in the world. And then cuts to them having sex off screen, thankfully. And
well, luckily they didn't do that in the anime. they didn't have sex. So it's like it comes down to a misunderstanding. It's like Kirito's like, "Can I stay at your place, Asuna?" And she's like, "Okay." And then she starts taking the clothes off, and Kirito's like, "Wait, not like that." I think I'll skip over it.
No, but in this show, they're they're teenagers who are horny and have feelings for each other, so of course they're going to have sex.
Oh, of course.
That's what happens. And as Kirito, for want of a better word, climaxes.
Oh, I guess he did put a sword on someone after all.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. See, Kirito screams out to Rosalia to suck it because he is now in a woman. And us is like, I love you too. Wait, who's Rosalia? And then immediately starts to punch him.
No. Oh dear.
And so the next episode picks up exactly where that scene left off, with Kirito still recovering from his wounds of being punched. And then Asuna's just like, okay, so what do we do now? And then we cut to Kirito's like internal monologue, like his left brain and his right brain debating with each other. It's like, oh shit, what do we do now? I don't know, the dating sims stop after this point. And so we're just going to say something, anything, whatever it is, just say it with confidence. And then Kirito says to Asuna, we should get married. Anything but that? What? You said say anything, not that. But it's okay. Maybe she'll know it's a joke. She won't say yes. And Asuna starts crying and says, yes, I will. You fool! You've doomed us all! I don't know why this is happening. Maybe she knows something we don't. We then cut to Asuna's internal monologue, which is her debating with herself, saying, bitch, why did you say yes? I don't know!
I thought Kronk had issues.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. It really gets into the fact that these two characters, from this point on, are both insanely good for each other and insanely bad for each other. Because after that, it turns out that they are both sticking to this agreement to get married, even though none of them actually wants to do, purely out of avoiding embarrassment and also as a way of one-upping each other. Heathcliff is saying, like, okay, so that place where we had the fight, that's on... Excuse me. Sorry, one sec. That's on fire right now, so I need to go to the King of Ashes, who's their leader, and also Don Fluffles, who has joined forces with them.
Okay.
To smooth this out, and I want you two as far away from it as possible, because you have a tendency to blow shit up. So why didn't you go and take a honeymoon? And so they go to a nice little cottage, and they both accept because they, again, want to one-up each other. And again, more internal monologues follow as they realize that the other is only saying yes and saying they want to get married due to avoid embarrassment, and so neither of them wants to be the one to say that we shouldn't get married, even though they both know that the other one knows that they don't want to get married. It's just the most unhealthy, stupid, childish behavior you could imagine.
I can imagine it.
What was their character's reaction to the idea of getting married in the original?
Oh, and quite simple. It's along the lines of Kirito says, hey, you want to get married? And Asuna breaks into tears and is like, sure, okay.
And that's it. Two teenagers who haven't known each other for that long, comparatively speaking, or at least haven't been together for that long, just decide to get married. But they play into that by showing that it's actually really, really fucking stupid idea. And and so, oh god. And so then they wake up the next day to discover there's a little girl lying in bed with them. And she's like, oh, what's going on here?
Wait, so when they first introduce Yui, is literally the first shot of her in the bed with them?
Actually, the first shot of her is in the previous episode in a post-credits scene with her like glitching out in the forest, but then the next episode is just her in bed with them. That's pretty good, because Kirito and Asuna find her in the forest, but I think this actually works a lot better. It's just her in the bed, and it's like, hey, little girl, what's going on here? Then they both have internally the idea to use this little girl as part of their mind games. I want to repeat, these are bad people. Like, they're interesting characters, but they're not great. But then again, they are teenagers who are socially awkward, and their main outlet in life is playing video games. So what were you expecting? And then they try and one up each other, and they do that by going to an orphanage saying that they want to buy another child to be her brother and sister. And while they're at the orphanage, they get contacted by this other person, Yulie, whatever her name is, of the Aincrad Liberation Front, or ALF, who requests their help to find the leader of her guild, this really great person who's really super smart called Thinker.
Yeah, his name is Thinker.
Here's the thing. In this version, Thinker is in fact not that smart, is actually really, 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 really stupid, falling for obvious traps, and the only reason why Yulie thinks that he's a great thinker is because she's very clearly attracted to him. And what's funny is, Yue is the one that very calmly and somewhat childlike, but very verbose manner, completely deconstructs Yulie's worldview, causing Yulie to threaten her with violence.
Oh dear.
So they all go down to the dungeon, they encounter a bunch of enemies they've got to fight. Kirito lays waste to them, which Yue watches with apparent delight. Like, the original anime is just, whilst he's killing people, is Yue going, "Yay, daddy, yay!" And they keep that in, but they comment on it.
That's pretty much what happened.
So then they get confronted by this main boss called the Fatal Scythe, this big Grim Reaper dude, and he's about to kill all of them. But then Yui turns up, and turns out she's a immortal object. She's part of the game, and she summons a big flaming sword, easily defeats the villain, and then it turns out she's a AI. Now, what is she in the original version?
What is she? Yui's role was to basically act as a counselor of sorts for players going through mental health problems, so they would stay focused in the game. But when the system went down, she was kind of like stuck in limbo, and she had to kind of hear and see all of the players dying and going through agony, and then she eventually just willed herself into the game as her character.
That's basically what happens in the Abridged Anime. But here, she just decides to focus on Kirito and Asuna because they are the most broken, stupid, unhealthy losers she's ever met, and she felt the need to help them. And then she reveals that she knew all along that they were just using her as part of their mind games and that they never really loved her, causing them both to break down and actually say, "No, actually, we did really love you." But it's like, it's okay. I'm not going to be a bother to you anymore. And then fades into existence as the system has now targeted her as a foreign entity, meaning she's going to be deleted. But Kirito then has the bright idea of saving her very quickly, due to the fact that he's a beta tester with admin privileges, as an item in-game, meaning that one day they might be able to resurrect her. Now, here's the thing. In the original version, as I understand it, this character was introduced to, right the fuck out of nowhere, to give this hastily married teenage couple a daughter, only to be immediately taken away with no consequences.
In 2 episodes.
Here, there are actually consequences. They realized that using her as part of the mind games was a bad thing, and they just said, "Okay, you know what? Let's have a real conversation. Do you think getting married was a bad idea?" "Yes, I do." "Do you want to stay married, though?" "Yes, I do." Was that it? Was that the conversation? Yes. And it actually leads to character growth for both of them. They get a much healthier relationship because of it. Now, Yue returns in the fairy dance arc, which I don't actually think we're going to go into too much, because while it is very interesting, it's not quite finished, so I don't feel like, But anyway, so we'll focus on the Aincrad arc in any case.
Fine.
But it turns out, in the fairy dance arc, that all of Kirito's items, when he logs into Alfheim Online, a lot of Alfs in this series. Anyway, all of his items transferred over. Well, none of his items transferred over except for Yue, and he releases her, and it turns out she's actually fine. Because it turns out she was never going to be deleted in Sword Art Online. She faked her destroying to give her parents closure, and also as a bit of a practical joke to get back at them for using her in that way. She was going to jump out and surprise them and say, haha, I'm okay, it's all fine. But because Kirito saved her as an item, she wasn't able to do that, forcing her to be stuck in a cold, small space, watching as her parents moved on without her, being unable to do anything but watch the world go by.
Ouch.
Yui gets a bit fucked up in Fairy Dance, I'm not going to lie. And so, the next episode, which is the final episode of the Iron Karate arc, and also like the longest at 35 minutes, Asano and Kirito get summoned by Heathcliff, saying they've got to fight the final boss of floor 75. They go down there to start taking care of it, and they make it to the boss room. They're about to fight this big, huge, skeletal Grim Reaper thingamabob, but then, suddenly, it dies from a glitch. And everyone's just like, because there's been tons of glitches in this game, and bugs, and problems, and all sorts of just weird design flaws. So this is not out of the ordinary. It's not a problem. Everyone's like, yay, we defeated the boss without having to actually defeat the boss, and none of us died in the process. Yay. Turns out, though, that the glitch is so bad that it means they're all stuck in the dungeon with no way of getting out.
Okay, that would have been interesting how they did.
And there's no way for them to starve to death, so they are trapped there in that room indefinitely forever.
Wait for the Heathcliff reveal?
Well, yes, for the Heathcliff reveal, because here's the thing. Hey, Heathcliff, this whole time, has been making, part of his thing is like he makes movie references, and he tries to lighten the mood and saying, hey, you know what, guys? At least if we're gonna die playing an awesome game. And everyone's just like, dude, this game is awful. We would not be playing this game if there wasn't a literal gun to our heads. And it's like, well, I know there's some minor bugs, and Kirito's like, yeah, I kind of like this game, but only because I get to be a super awesome badass in it, and it is a terrible game with terrible design flaws. And he then says, the only reason anyone's bought it is because it's the only big VR game out there that makes Tron real. And Heathcliff says, oh, now you've seen Tron. Here's the thing. In the very first episode, Kayaba, the guy who set this all in motion, asked the assembled crowd before him of players, have any of you seen Tron? And then Kirito, something clicks in his mind, and he realizes that something's not right about Heathcliff, and he attacks him, seeing that, much like with Yui, there he is an immortal object, and he's completely and utterly protected, and he realizes, oh my god, Heathcliff is Kayaba Akihiko!
What a surprise.
And a lot of people don't get it, but then Kayaba plays the scanners clip again, and they suddenly get it. We'll call back to that. And he sort of goes on to this big monologue about how he's just like, you had to go and ruin it. Although we will say that he is actually kind of glad that he met Kirito because he's the only person who references movies like he does. It's the first time anyone has ever understood him. And
okay.
Oh, God. And then one of the other players tries to attack Kayaba. So Kayaba paralyzes everyone, and pointing out the fact that, okay, so here's what happened. Kirito tried to attack me, and I'm an immortal object. I can't be killed. But this guy, this genius, thinks that it would work if he did it. And he basically berates all of them. And talks about how they are complete and utter bastards and terrible at this game, and they're the real problem. But then Kirito's just like, okay, you know what? You and me, one-on-one, rematch. If I win, you free everyone from this game. If you win, then I can't remember actually, but he managed to convince him by quoting Back to the Future, and they have a big fight, and it's actually pretty epic. But unfortunately, then his sword breaks.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And Kaiba is about to kill him, but then Asuna jumps in front of him. I guess with the power of love or something. It's a game glitch. And so Asuna dies. And Kirito feebly tries to take care of Kaiba, but he's so completely and utterly destroyed because at this whole point, it's all been leading up to Kirito opening himself up again. And he finally does. He makes amends with Klein, actually referring to him as Klein and not Balls Deep 69, and revealing that he actually succeeds with the strength of his friends, and then his wife dies. But then as Kaiba stabs Kirito, Kirito also stabs Kaiba, and oh god, it's just a great scene where they both die, and then suddenly Kirito wakes up what appears to be a nice sunny sky on top of like a pool of water, Avengers Endgame style, watching the world of Sword Art Online crumble to dust. And then over on the side, Kirito and Asuna see Kaiba in his true form. And Kirito's just like, okay, so you're locking people out of the game? Yep. Okay, so one question. Why did you do all this? Kaiba says, you know, it's funny. I don't even remember anymore. What happens in the original?
Same thing.
Right. And do they just accept that answer and then they leave the game?
Pretty much, yeah.
In this version, they do not accept that. They're just like, what? That's what you're going to leave us with? And Kaiba's just like, no. Can you imagine? 2 years, and that's all I give you? That would be really unsatisfying.
Mm-hmm. What does he give them?
And then he says, okay, I did this because of Metacritic. Okay. And he goes on to explain that the game was overdue and he was working really hard and he had to get the game out by deadline, so he decided to work for 3 weeks straight without sleep. And because he was in such a sleep-deprived stupor when he was making the game, he accidentally caused a glitch in the game that causes people to die in real life when their avatars die. So it was an accident. And
well, I suppose they give it a bit more humanity.
Well, that's the thing. It goes on.
Okay.
And it's just like, and they're just like, well, why didn't you try and fix it? And I said, that would have been a sensible thing, but have to remember, I was running on like 500 uninterrupted hours of consciousness, and so my best decision-making skills were limited to double, triple, and quadrupling down. So he decided to hijack the game, keep all the players from logging out, and basically using them as hostages to keep the governments and law enforcement agencies of the world off his back until he found a way out of the mess. Unfortunately, he never did. And apparently he tried to ask for an extension, but they didn't allow it. Then they make a Bethesda joke because there's just a few glitches. It's very, very funny. But then they're just like, okay, so why the whole Heathcliff thing? And then he's just like, remember how 2,000 of you died in the first month of the game without even clearing the first floor? And they basically said, okay, look, I realized I had to do something to help you guys get through the game. Despite my little outburst earlier, I never actually wanted to kill any of you. And he's sort of portrayed as just like this broken man who just got stuck in an ever-spiraling series of events that he just didn't take a rational way out of due to massive sleep deprivation. It's both very funny and actually kind of tragic. And And what cements the cherry on the tragic Sunday is when Asuna says, "Why didn't you just blame all this on a hacker group pretending to be you? It's not like you had any motive, and it'd be more believable." And Kaiba's just like, "Well, Asuna. The problem with that is that it's an excellent idea that I wish I thought of 2 years ago." And then he walks away.
Ouch.
And he's just like, yeah, this whole thing happened because one guy in a sleep-deprived stupor, fucked up bad, decided not to get a quick power nap before he made any important decisions, and just got stuck, and now is the most wanted man on the face of the earth and is forced to run for the rest of his life.
Well, actually, he dies in the anime, and then he kind of resurrects himself as a AI.
That hasn't happened so far in Sword Art Online Abridged, so as far as we know, Kaiba is still on the run and is at large.
Oh, okay, fine.
And yeah, so compared to I don't even remember why I did this, gotta be honest, that's a much better reason.
Yeah, so it makes him a lot more fleshed out beyond being I'm the evil game master.
Yeah, because like, what was his motivation in the original anime?
He doesn't have one,
exactly.
really.
He doesn't have one. And here, he actually has one. And it's both one that's sympathetic, aggravating, understandable, and also not understandable. He's shown as clearly someone who is not a picture of grace under fire and makes terrible decisions in the heat of the moment, but that just makes him feel more human. And so Kirito and Asuna finally get a moment alone. They share a last tearful goodbye, and then they all get logged out of the game, and Kirito wakes up in hospital and walks away from the hospital bed, desperate to find Asuna, without realizing that he's still got his catheter in, which causes him to tear his dick in half.
Ooh, ouch.
And that's how we end the Aincrad arc. Now, I mean...
Very, very good, very good.
So, I want to go into the Fairy Dance episode, but we're only 4 episodes into that. It's the 15th episode of the whole season. Whole Abridged Anime just came out like this week or a few days ago. So...
Mm-hmm.
It's still ongoing, is what I'm saying.
Take the wheel? Do you want me to take the wheel?
Well, okay, so what happened so far, just a brief overview, is Kirito discovers with the help of Tiffany that Asuna is being held in Alfheim Online, this fairy game, which is actually a learning game made for children, in which you are not allowed to swear in it.
Okay.
And it turns out the reason why she's there is because this guy Sugo managed to, after Kayabara's, what was his name? Kayaba's, sorry, I forgot his name for a second there. Kayaba's company went under due to the fact that he was super on the run from everyone. He purchased the SAO servers and kept them on, basically saving everyone's life, and is now invested in this Alfheim game, and is now keeping Asuna's mind locked up in there until he marries her because he's a creepy sex perv.
Fucking hell.
And then Kirito goes in there to save Asuna before the wedding, and meets this character, Leafa, who's a role player, who turns out to be his psycho sister. Along with her friend in real life, plays this guy called Reckon, who she actually kind of has feelings for in a very dominatrixy kind of way. Like, I don't have feelings for you, shut up. Now I'm going to give you a blow job. It's funnier in the show.
Okay then.
And that's where we're basically up to so far. Now,
okay.
I kind of want to ask what happens in the rest of that arc, but I also don't because
Okay.
I also don't because I don't really want spoilers for me because I don't know how closely they're going to keep to that storyline. Because here's the thing: I only watched 4 episodes of the original anime. That was my limit.
That's fine.
So
that's fine. Believe me, whatever Abridged does is 100 times better than what they did. Jesus God.
Did they go the incest route?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Because do you want me to give
No, I
spoilers
don't.
or? Okay, it looks like spoilers, like they're like icky ears.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's.
Shall I jump? Shall I jump to the third arc? That's quite good.
No. That's the point we're trying to make it. The reason why we're not here to give a complete overview of Sword Art Online. The reason why we're doing it is that
No.
would you say that everything I've described here is 100 times better than the original anime?
Yes.
Would you? Because that's the interesting thing. It's a comedy redub of an already established and admittedly popular anime series, and it's gotten a huge following because it actually invests not only just in humor, and yes, there are some gross, crass humors, but it also heavily invests in character development, plot progression, interesting character dynamics, acknowledging some of the fucked up elements of the original show while also playing it for laughs. I can't think of another medium where, outside of like a reboot of a movie, where that sort of thing can happen.
It's not bad, is it?
It's really interesting, especially considering the fact that animes nowadays are really sort of beholden to the original source material. Like, there's some stuff gets changed in translation and some stuff gets edited, but it's really, really minimal, and the Japanese apparently don't quite like that a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I do quite. If you look at the anime in general, how far we've come, because I don't know the exact origins, but Samurai Pizza Cat was kind of like a complete and utter Frankenstein of another anime. Yeah. And nowadays, and the days of jelly donuts are long behind us.
Yes, the obvious rice ball is a jelly donut.
Yeah, but nowadays, literally, they just, very respectively, they just kind of like do their own dub of the source material without completely for kids eating it.
I mean, the only exception I can think to this is there's an anime called, I think it's Ghost Stories.
Never heard of it.
Well, I think it's called Ghost Stories. It's something like that. The original was a kind of serious story about these kids in this school, and there's a whole plot. But when it came over to America, the voice actors realized, okay, this is a really obscure anime, and no one's gonna like watch this. So they just did whatever the hell they wanted, and it's one of the funniest things you will ever see in your life. And they ad-libbed a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of stuff that just okay, so there's this, to quote it, there's this funny scene in the original. There's this a girl is having flashbacks of her playing with a rabbit. It's like, oh, it's a cute rabbit. In the original, that's what happened in the original. In the American version, the Western dub, the English dub, the little girl is now saying, I remember all the times I played with that rabbit. And then it's just her flashing back to her playing with the rabbit. And then the rabbit, in a really deep voice, says, haha, touch me. And then flashback to another scene with her and the rabbit. And she's like, ah, Bunny-chan, you're so cute. And the rabbit is just like, touch me harder. I'm not doing it a lot of justice. And it is weird and creepy, but it's one of the funniest things you will ever see. And that's the only comparison I can really make to it. It's really fascinating. That's the kind of thing that happened. Because, I mean, there's lots of great anime abridged out there, but most people view them just like in equal esteem to the original. Like, no one's out there is going to say that Team 4 Stars Dragon Ball Z Abridged is better than the original Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Some people might prefer it. I know I do. But no one's going to say in terms of quality that it's better, because they don't really... I mean, they change up some of the character development and characters a little bit, but they give them about the same amount of development, and there was great development in the original show anyway. Here, they took something that was broken and lame and just a little bit weird and made it excellent and humorous and tragic and actually deserving of a following.
I think they could hit it on the nail on the head. I should watch this.
You absolutely should. I mean, if anyone ever would ask me, would I recommend an abridged anime, I'd recommend this above and beyond Team 4 Star and all that stuff. And the great thing about it is you don't need to see the original in order to get it. There are some jokes for people who've seen both versions, but it stands on its own merits. And I kind of wonder, here's my question. We've got a lot of Japanese imports, that we've all watched as kids: Pokemon, Digimon, Sailor Moon, all that sort of stuff, Cowboy Bebop. Um, I've always wondered why no one has ever seriously, aside from that Ghost Stories thing, ever seriously tried to do a comedy dub and called it an abridged. Why no one has ever do it? I don't know if it's a copyright thing, because at the beginning of every single respectable abridged anime, they always say these characters and this story is owned by so and so and so and so. Please support the official release. But I often wonder why I never saw that on television. They always took. I mean, there is something to be said for taking it seriously and actually, doing a sincere and faithful dub of the original. But if someone did a television show like that, I'd watch it.
Yeah, I probably would too. I mean, it sounds. Again, it probably comes down to copyright stuff, so to speak. And I think most people would probably just kind of, what's it called? They'd probably do it along the lines of, what's it called? It's not Masterpiece Theatre, is it? The thing where the thing where they watch the film and they make jokes about it.
Oh, Mystery Science Theater 3000.
That's the one. Master Theatre. I think of that.
Hey, Mystery Science Theater 3000 is a masterpiece, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, no. So
but that's it's stuff like that. We already have this sort of this irreverent, referential foundation for that sort of thing. So I don't know. I mean, who knows what the future television will hold? I personally think that the network is going to crumble to dust and they'll all be online on streaming stuff. But and they will do that through TVs instead of traditional network stuff. But who knows? Who knows? All I know is that in the meantime, I've got plenty of abridged animes to go on, and if people continue this trend of taking kind of crap animes and making something of real worth and merit to them, and it does take a lot of effort. The effort they put into this for the voice acting, the additional animations, the music and the sound effects and the writing and all sorts really makes it stand out. And so I think it's important to know that if you have a crap story, there is no reason why you can't transcend it and actually build something of worth. And on that note, I think we're going to end the show. Thank you very much, Mark, for joining me today.
Guess what I'm going to go watch now?
I'm going to guess Ghost Stories.
No, I'm going to watch Sword Art Online Abridged.
Okay. Well, thank you for doing that. Meanwhile, Capers, please, as we said in the beginning of the show, do check out aplacetohangyourcape.com. That's ap2hyc.com/merch, and type in the code CAPE10 to get 10% off all our merchandise throughout the month of October. But if you enjoyed the show, please tell your friends, shout it from the rooftops, and if I haven't already, go back into some of our other super episodes, like our Sailor Moon episode, and all those other episodes where Mark drones on at me and I finally get to churn the tables. And you can listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, or at podcapers.com. If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics, or maybe come on the show yourself, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AP2RC. Thank you very much to Dan Harris for our logo, the lovely microphone, the red and blue 3D glasses, those are mine, and all the various variants of that logo are on the store as well, on t-shirts and all sorts. Be sure to check them out. And thank you for listening. This has been Podcapers, the official podcast for a place to hang your cape. Cue the music!